The war has begun, but no one was ready for what came next. They thought it would be fast, glorious. Our heroes would return home before the snow fell, but winter came, and no one was going home. The battle lines froze in place. From the coast of Belgium to the fields of France, thousands of kilometers of trenches were dug into the earth, deep scars cutting through Europe. The soldiers called it the Western Front. Life in the trenches was hell on earth. Mud, cold, death. Men lived surrounded by rats the size of cats. The air stank of rotting bodies, sewage, and fear. One soldier described it like this: "There is nothing more horrible than a trench when it rains. Everything is horrible about it. You are wet all over. Your clothes stick to your body. Your boots fill with water and the cold seeps into your very bones. There is no such thing as dry ground. If you sit down, you sink into the mud. If you stand up, you sink into the mud. If you try to move forward, you sink into the mud. If you fall backwards, you sink into the mud. You feel as if the ground will swallow you up." Another soldier said, "You can't imagine how awful it is to stand in cold water all day long. It seems that nature herself wants to punish us. At first, the water only makes your feet sore. Then it begins to eat away the flesh until the skin rots. Toes drop off, then the feet lose all feeling and finally turn black. They have to amputate your leg just above the knee. Otherwise, gangrene will set in. Trench foot is worse than being wounded. When we had to march through Flanders, I saw men drop down dead. Their feet could take no more. They collapsed and died right where they stood. We buried these poor devils where they fell, but some men got off lightly. More men lost their sanity than their limbs. The strain was too much for their minds. The horrors of the front, the fear, the sickness, the loneliness slowly drove them mad. Sometimes a soldier could walk the trenches for miles without speaking a word. He might stop suddenly, raise his arms, and scream at the top of his voice for no reason. Or he might laugh hysterically or start digging a hole. Other times, a man wouldn't speak for weeks. Then he would suddenly begin to write down every single detail of his experiences, of everything he saw, heard, smelled, tasted, felt. And then they would stop writing. Those pages were filled with the madness of war. Every morning, the officers shouted, over the top. It meant climbing out of the trenches, into no man's land. A barren stretch of mud, barbed wire, and shell craters. It was suicide. Machine guns cut down entire battalions in seconds. Artillery pounded the ground non-stop. Poison gas drifted silently, burning lungs, blinding eyes, melting faces. Men screamed for their mothers. Others died silently, frozen in the mud. The ground swallowed them whole. But still, they fought, and still, they hoped. Letters from home spoke of normal life, children growing, harvests ready. But the men in the trenches lived a different reality, a nightmare. It started on July 1915. It was a sweltering hot day. Suddenly, a thick white cloud erupted from the German trenches. It drifted slowly towards the British lines, a silent, deadly fog. The soldiers panicked. What was it? How could they fight something they couldn't see? Then an officer cried, "Gas, gas, gas." Soldiers pulled out their gas masks and charged forward, coughing and choking, blinded and burning. The chlorine gas ate away their lungs. Many died within minutes. By nightfall, 60,000 British soldiers lay dead or dying. It would not be the last time. Some didn't sleep for days. The constant shelling, the cries of the wounded, the fear that at any moment a shell could land right beside you and blow your whole world to bits. So what did they do? They drank. They smuggled in bottles of stolen wine and danced around the trenches like it was some kind of party. Or they gambled, betting on which shell would land closest to their trench. Or they wrote letters home. A soldier wrote, "I don't know what may happen to me. If you get this letter, I am dead. Tell my folks that I died trying to do my duty. It is terrible here. We are shelled day and night. I feel sometimes as though I shall go insane. Everyone is nervous. You can't tell where a bullet will go. You must live in a dugout. There is no rest. You sleep in the daytime and work all night and in the daytime again. We all look dreadful, dirty, unshaven and unwashed. My face is covered with spots. A man has to shave with cold water. I haven't washed my hair for 2 years. All our hair is falling out. I have written several letters but have not received one reply. This is the worst place on earth." Another wrote, "We are simply beasts here, living, eating, drinking, sleeping in the open, dodging shells, enduring cold, hunger, thirst, wind, rain, mud, filth. There is no other beast quite like us now. I should like to see the public in London having tea and cakes in the afternoon. I wonder if they ever think of us. I suppose they think we are all killed. If so, they are wrong. We are simply living skeletons now and look like ghosts, but most soldiers didn't write. They didn't have the strength. What could they say? Another day in paradise. The sun is shining. The birds are singing. The flowers are blooming. Come join me in the trenches and let's have tea together. Well, that's exactly what the officer class wanted them to say. On paper, the British Army looked invincible. Its men were brave, its leaders brilliant, its weapons powerful. In fact, its generals blundered from one defeat to another. The true heroes were the ordinary soldiers. They endured the horrors of the front. They fought with tenacity, with honor, with courage. But they were dying by the thousands. Each day, the same senseless attacks. They ran into machine gun fire. They charged across open fields straight into artillery barrages. Many believed the war would be over by Christmas 1914. By 1917, they realized it could drag on for years. They asked themselves, what are we doing here? Why aren't we going home? Officers knew the answer. This war wasn't about military victories. It was about endurance. Whoever held the line, whoever endured the longest, whoever bled the other side dry, would win. And so the battle lines held firm. Months became years, years decades. Christmas came, but there was no peace. On December 25, 1914, in a small section of the Western Front, something incredible happened. The guns fell silent. German and British soldiers climbed out of their trenches. They shook hands. They exchanged presents and cigarettes. They sang carols. They read poetry. They told stories. They played football. For a few hours, they were not enemies. They were men, brothers trapped in a war they didn't create. But by morning, the officers gave the order. The fighting resumed, and the nightmare continued. Millions of men died. Entire generations were lost. The weary soldiers kept fighting for king and country, for God and glory, for freedom and democracy. But who were they fighting for? Behind the front lines, politicians bickered and schemed. Generals sipped their wine and dined in luxury. Factories pumped out weapons, ammunition, and poison gas. Kings and queens watched from afar. Who were the real winners of this war? In 1918, the Germans launched one last offensive. They pushed the Allies back, kilometer after kilometer. Victory seemed within reach, but it wasn't. For weeks, the Americans had been training, arming, gathering. Finally, they arrived. Fresh troops poured into the Western Front. The tide turned. The Germans fled. The Allies pursued them, mile after mile. They raced against the clock. Winter was coming. The Germans retreated into their own territory, deeper and deeper. They abandoned entire divisions, entire brigades, entire battalions. Many didn't make it home. Many didn't want to. After 4 years of fighting, they had nowhere else to go. November 11, 1918, at a.m., an armistice was signed. The guns fell silent. Across the Western Front, the soldiers climbed out of their trenches. They embraced. They sang. They cheered. The nightmare was over. The war was won. They returned home heroes. Well, almost. They had survived the trenches. Now they had to survive life. But it wasn't easy. The world had moved on. New fashions, new dances, new music. The old soldiers felt out of place. Many couldn't find work. Many couldn't find peace. They wandered the streets empty-eyed, haunted by memories. Some took their own lives. Others turned to drink. Still others disappeared, never to be seen again. And all the while, hidden beneath the mud, beneath the fear, beneath the death, the Western Front remained, a silent testament to a forgotten war. Are you enjoying this series? Well, we made sure to include the best part for last. The story of Sergeant Bob, a survivor of the Western Front. Watch it now.